today's session, please allow me to invite Dr. Hassan Wirajuda, the former Foreign Minister of Indonesia. May I invite His Excellency Stephen Smith, the Foreign Minister of Australia, 2007 until 2010. Please allow me to invite His Excellency Chang, Beom, Ambassador of the Republic of Correa to Indonesia. Silakan. Please allow me to invite His Excellency Shri Pradeep Kumar Rawat, Ambassador of India to Indonesia. Selamat sore. Finally, allow me to invite His Excellency Rubem Correa Barbosa, Ambassador of Brazil to Indonesia. Selamat sore. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great event. We are not talking about semi-final, not talking about quarter-final. Today is the grand final. I think, please big applause to our in front of us, there is a very challenging title. What is going on with the emerging and middle powers? And then, what can we realistically expect from them, including Indonesia, in shaping world affairs? My name is Teuku, representing Universitas Pajajaran, Universitas Presiden, and also Barbosa University. Well, please allow me to start with what is middle powers? Based on the dictionary. In international relations, a middle power is a sovereign state that is not a superpower, nor a great power, but still has large or moderate influence and international recognition. Excellencies in front of us representing their countries. Indonesia, currently 267 million population. India, 1.358 million population. 1,358 million population. Republic of Korea, 51 million. Australia, 25 million. Brazil, 211 million. Altogether, they represent 1,912 million society. Big hands for the alignment of the big powers. If we combine their forces, nearly 2 billion out of the 7.7 billion citizens of the world. So, I will not talk much, but this is a before. Most of us are students. Any one of you coming from Paramadina University, Bakri University, Pajajaran University, raise your hands. Parahyangan University. Okay. Yuli University. Okay. Anybody coming from the island of Java? Okay. Anybody coming from overseas? Okay. Welcome. In Indonesia, the session is day 4. Day 4. In Indonesia, there is a term for this: datang, duduk, diam, dengar. I'm sure they are not going to do that. And because they are very young, I'm thinking of a video games for them. D4 stands for Dark Dreams Don't Die. Is that correct? And then for today, emerging and middle powers are supposed to have a capacity to develop, to direct, to design, and to democratize the world. Well, I will not take your time, Your Excellencies. May I invite you to share your opinion around 7 minutes on what do you think of middle powers? What are role to be played by your individual countries, and also are there possible coalition in the future for a better world? Well, please allow me to start from my right. Bapak dari India, mohon kesediaan. Please, big hands for our father from India.
Let me first of all issue a disclaimer that whatever I say, I am saying in my personal capacity as Pradeep and does not reflect you myself. First of all, let me thank FPCI for giving me this opportunity. My first such event, and this is wonderfully organized. My comments are divided in three categories. First, just a broad brush stroke international situation, then understand what a middle power is, and then how their role in status-seeking behavior impacts the international system. Few would disagree with the proposition that today we are indeed in a world in transition. Change is both constant and unrelenting, and in fact, its pace has quickened with the spread of technology. In the field of climate change, the 1 degree which rise of temperature which used to take 1,000 years, now we can achieve thanks to technology in less than 100 years. So that is the kind of change happening. What characterizes international relations today is a sharp departure from long-standing assumptions and practices. Some of that certainly reflects structural trends. The world situation keeps evolving. At the same time, the manner in which the world identifies and prioritizes challenges is no longer the same. The future of international cooperation remains uncertain in light of the events of a couple of years events. Most notably, the setback of EU's agenda of unifying European continent due to Brexit referendum and economic crisis facing some member countries. Questioning of the fairness of existing trading system due to US challenging some Chinese trade practices, leading to imposition of competitive penal tariffs between the two biggest economies, job losses in industrialized countries, and threat of massive job losses in developing world because of Industry 4.0, paralyzed national and international landscape which threatens to and the rise of conservatism across a vast swath of international landscape. The conflict in Middle East continues, even though the most virulent effects of global terrorism epitomized in the rise of ISIS have been defeated. A peaceful resolution of tensions on the Korean Peninsula has got new hope. Amidst this backdrop, let me also mention what a middle path, as Kumar has mentioned. Middle path has all three aspects of diplomacy: behavior, status, and strategy. Normally, middle powers have what we call status-seeking behavior, and they have a very important role as peacekeeper, mediator, and communicator. Generally, middle powers are satisfied with status quo and a slow evolution. Now, coming back to the global situation, we are today seeing some kind of a G2, where there is a reigning superpower trying to maintain the status quo, and you have another emerging superpower trying to challenge and seek or reform the global system in a way which is creating a little bit of situation. Now, both the existing superpower or the emerging superpower certainly need a coalition with the middle power to be successful, and that is where the role of middle power is to greater play. Hence, my hypothesis is that a situation like this offers middle power much more room to make an impact on the emerging global situation.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We have seen an alternative definition of global powers, a great capacity for diplomacy and a status. And also this must be based on good governance as well. And then for the second speaker, please allow me to invite His Excellency Chang.
Selamat siang. Sangat senang bisa bertemu dengan Anda sekalian. Let us make a brief pause and take a deep breath. Frictions and tensions between the United States and China looms louder than ever. It was well captured by Professor Rawat's recent book called Destined for War. Now the big question is whether emerging or middle powers are in a position to make impacts in the shaping of the world order under these very uncertain circumstances. Are there enough rooms for middle powers to play? I want to take a deep breath once again and design your own thinking to come up with answers. In fact, nobody is holding any magic lamp to solve this problem. The key is whether and how we can make soft adjustments, adapting to new environments, and perhaps to make new and innovative solutions out of these difficulties. For me, my initial response to these questions is a bit positive. Let me just share with you why my argument is on the positive side. Let me just cite 3 recent trends. First trend, the global stage is getting more crowded. That means increased number of players on the global stage. It gives us more complexity, but it means less controls, or less central roles to be played by one big superpower. It entails the loss of monopolies, politically or economically. Second trend is the public comes closer to the stage than ever before. In some cases, the public is already on the stage to make decisions. One key aspect is communication revolution. Third trend, I may cite, the nature of the play is changing. Power and influence in the world are more and more a matter of economy. Some say matter of soft power rather than hard power, and less of weapons. In that respect, the so-called old play of rivalry is still on, yet there is one vital difference. The major powers cannot achieve prosperity by undermining each other. That is new. Here at this point, middle powers can make some differences. For example, ASEAN. ASEAN is an example of successful regional cooperation in Asia. Can we imagine the Southeast Asia now without ASEAN, existence of ASEAN? Can Southeast Asia without ASEAN effectively address the increasing challenges coming from power shift? Regionalism or regional integration is a key to enhance stability and balance in the midst of turbulences. Indonesia can help facilitate ASEAN's further integration as a leading member state. Another example is MICTA. MICTA stands for Mexico, Indonesia, Korea, Turkey, and Australia. It's still at an initial stage, but it's a nexus of like-minded countries. It is giving extra security and cohesiveness to global agenda debates. It also proved that a coalition of middle powers can make a bit of differences. Another example is the ongoing peace process on the Korean Peninsula. It showcases how diplomacy and engagement can shape a new future in the regional security architecture. It is altering the new landscape and affecting interstate relations not only between South and North, but also within the whole countries in the region. Indonesia has been standing side by side along with such peace process. I was invited together with the North Korean ambassador at Istanbul right after the first Indo-Korean summit this year in April. So that is again showcasing Indonesia can play some role in giving more opportunities for South and North Korea to engage with each other like we have seen in the Asian Games in 2018. Lastly, let me share with you one message. It is still resonating now in this book. It is a message written by the late founding Vice President Muhammad Hatta in 1953. Indonesia feels it is duty to strengthen the ideals of peace. However, weak is voice or feeble is power. It believes that these ideas will become reality in the long run. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite Bapak Hassan Berminda. Please come on.
Shri Kumar Rawat, Rubem, Correa, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go straight to the topic of our discussion. What are the emerging countries, middle powers? Certainly, as was mentioned by our moderator, we are not world power. None of us is permanent member of the Security Council. We are regional powers. But as carefully selected panelists indicate that we are the panelists somewhat represent the emerging power. The term of emerging power was popularly used following the world of global financial crisis of 2008, and the group of 20, or G20, was established. Interestingly, out of those 2011 were emerging countries, starting with Argentina, Australia, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Republic of Correa, Russia, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and Turkey. Their individual GNP may not be part of the largest 20, but their potentials are counted. As they have potential to grow bigger and bigger. Take Indonesia as an example. Currently, Indonesia is the 16th largest economy in terms of its nominal GDP. But its GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, according to the World Bank and the IMF last year, Indonesia is not the 8th largest economy. And projected to move up the 6th largest economy in 2014 and by 2050, Indonesia is projected to be the fourth largest, following China, India, United States, and Indonesia has been fourth. And since 2009, when the world has been in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, then the G7 developed economies were very much not only in control of the world economy, but since then, by 2015, emerging 7 economy is more or less equal to the E7. And by 2014, the E7 would be E7 economy. In terms of GDP, its per purchasing power would be double of the E7. That's what I said, not only in terms of their nominal GDP as per 2008, but the potential to grow further. So in a way, the admissions of emerging economy to the G20 reflects, number one, the fact that to deal with such a global crisis, the developed economies needs, that's why the inclusions, the admissions of emerging economy as their part, not only to deal with the impact of the global financial crisis, but also in discussing the future of global economy. I participated in the second G20 summit in London. I was encouraged then because the summit agreed to reform the Bretton Woods institutions, namely the World Bank and the IMF, but as the crisis receded, I never heard about the reform of the global economic governance. Global governance and economy were very much dominated by the advanced economies, the G7, and as they're more open to reform, I think this could be a precedent for similar reform be undertaken at the global political and security governance. So as it's failed at the economic global governance, and I don't expect that there would be a reform of the global political and security. I participated in the reform of the UN, including the UN Security Council, since 1995. I participated in the ensuing summit every 5 years of the UN reform. I think by now I give up my hope. And I very much agree with the observation of Dr. Henry that as reform seems impossible, the world, in absence of a widely shared order, what is called world order, in the near future or in the future would comprise of regional and regional order, the totality of regional orders. I think this is what the G7, the emerging countries must claim as aspirations, or the emerging countries, the middle power play its roles, at least for them to focus on in helping create a regional order in their respective regions. I will give an example. Indonesia has been with 9 other countries in the Southeast Asia. We were able to create ASEAN in the past 51 years. We enjoy relative peace and security, and pada batas we are able to focus our time, energy, and resources for economic development. That's why ASEAN is progressing economy. That's why ASEAN is now the 6th largest economy, and will move up further. So it is in the area of regional can contribute, because in absence of an effective global order, the future global order would comprise the totality of regional order. Here we can play a role, as we have in Southeast Asia, larger East Asia, which is state banking, that I believe also in Brazil and Latin America, South America, and India, as India is one of East Asia. So I think we play its role toward the creations of a larger East Asia and Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hassan, for the optimism. Then I know to be played actually for middle powers. And then let's invite His Excellency Smith. Please go on.
Well, thank you very much. Hassan, ambassadors. The first point I'd make is that whilst there is always plenty of academic discussion or attribution of middle powers, it's not really a self-description that we give to ourselves when we're wearing a nation-state cap. So when I was Australia's foreign minister, I would never stand up and say, I'm very pleased, ladies and gentlemen, to be here with my middle power foreign minister from Indonesia, Pakistan. So whilst it's common to see it in the academic literature, it's not really how nations self-describe themselves. So that's the first point. Secondly, if you look at the collection of nation-states that we have here, as Hassan said, skillfully put together by Dino, what do we have in common? We have one thing in common, we're all in the G20, the point which has been made. Four of us come from our part of the world, the Indo-Pacific, and our colleague comes from Latin America. But we do share a whole range of attributes which makes it very comfortable for us to be on the same stage and to act in concert in regional and multilateral forums where democracies, we respect the rule of law, respect the law of contract. We believe in resolving disputes by peaceful means, where we support the United Nations in terms of the starting point, which is we don't want conflicts to lead to lack of security. We want there to be peace and prosperity. So we have a whole range of values and virtues in common, which make it very easy to join panels together and to act in concert as nation states. But if you look to the future, what now looks like a pretty comfortable collection of G20 colleagues might in 2050 look differently. One academic definition of middle power is it's not a great power. By 2050, India will be a great power. Currently we have the United States as a great power, we have China on the rise or already a great power, and in the blink of an eye, India will be a great power. Why do I say this? India is the world's largest democracy, and all of the economic predictions are that by 2050, the three great economies will be China, India, and the United States, and probably in that order. So India will be a rising power. India will be a great power in that T3 sense. Not that my instinct is that India would want to operate in a T3 world, a T20 world, yes, but not a T3 world. And by 2050, Indonesia will be the fourth largest economy in the world. And so when you look to Brazil will be on those predictions the fifth largest economy in the world. Correa will still be in the G20, but Australia will struggle to be in the G30. And so the challenge economically for Australia is that whilst our relative share of GDP and our ranking might go from a G20 to a G30, how do we retain our current level of prosperity? And how do we continue to be an influential nation, arguing for the things that I've described, those values and virtues that we share, democracy, freedom of expression, and resolving matters peacefully. If you look at Australia's case, we're a large landmass continent. We are a large economy, but we're a small population. When you added up all of the populations we have, we come to the sum total of 25 million. We only made 25 million a couple of months ago. And on our best estimates, by 2050, we'll be somewhere between 30 and 35 million. So we're a small population, large landmass country. But we've got a strong economy, and we are influential by firstly being a trading nation and an attractive venue for overseas capital investment. But we've also understood that to have influence, you want to accept your regional obligations, so we're a leading member of the Pacific Island Forum, but you also want to be in the relevant regional architecture. So Australia was ASEAN's first dialogue partner. We celebrated 50 years of that last year. We've always been, and we were at the ground floor of working to create the United Nations, so we've always been regionalists and multilaterals. We've worked very hard with India and Indonesia to try and make IORA, the International Rivers Association, more effective, and we're on the ground floor with the formation of the United Nations and committed to those international institutions. So for a country like Australia, working in a strong way bilaterally, working regionally and working multilaterally through all of those institutions works for us. Because our approach to life, as is reflected by all of the colleagues here, is underpinned by one thing which for us makes the world go round in a way in which there might be ongoing peace and prosperity. It's called an underpinning of a rules-based order. So that's the basis of pretty much everything that we enter into. It's reflected by the underlying precepts of ASEAN, Pacific Island Forum, United Nations, the Latin American institutions, and the like. So for a country like Australia, and also from its emergence, countries like Indonesia, Korea, Brazil, and India, it's worked for those countries as well. So one of the potential challenges for our emerging countries like India and Indonesia, who may well end up as great powers or close to being great powers, we want those powers to carry with them the same virtues and values that they carry now. We don't want them to adopt a might is right attitude. So we want them to continue to have those adherence and attachments to consensus, conciliation, to resolving matters peacefully, and to have an aspiration for their people and their region of peace and prosperity. Because that is certainly the way in which Australia has always seen its way forward and certainly sees its future. We have no aspirations to be a great power. We have aspirations to accept the responsibility which comes from being a large economy in our part of the world. And we want to be influential when we argue a good cause. In other words, the strength of an Australian argument often comes because of the strength of the argument, not because of the battalions of numbers of weight or population which might come with it. And so these are the sorts of approaches which I think have served Australia, Brazil, Indonesia, India and Korea well, and they continue to serve countries well into the future, and they continue to serve countries whether they're number one or number two or number three in the current order, because these values and virtues underpin a way of life and approach to national and international affairs which serve regional and international and the international regional communities and the international community well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Now please allow me to invite His Excellency Rubem Antonio Correa Barbosa. Please allow.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for having me here. The issue is what is going on with the emerging and middle powers, and what can we realistically expect of them. I would like to see if I can bring a sort of breeze of optimism to that. I think that those powers were doing reasonably well until the ravage of the 2008 global financial crisis, which in my country is very much seen as a blue-eyed crisis. We have nothing to do with that. We tried to avoid the consequences of it as much as we could, but finally we were unfortunately very much hit by that, contracted by 3.77% in 2015 and another 3.6% in 2016, which made our economy go back to the level it was in 2010. We had growth of just 1% last year, probably a little over 1% this year, just for you to have an idea of how devastating the GFC has been and that it's not over yet. Talking about emerging and developing countries, apart from Brazil, I think it should be fair to remember that they have been responsible for considerable growth in the world in the 21st century. Much of the recent bumps faced by many of them are due to the increase in interest rates in the United States, as well as to the incredible increase in the value of the US dollar against many emerging market currencies, compared to the dollar 21% since January this year. In any case, emerging markets account for 59% of the world's output measured by purchasing power, up from 43% just 2 decades ago when the Asian financial crisis hit. They're also very strong in innovation, very present in the creative economy, as well as in conceiving startups, for instance. Their problems could soon wash back onto America's shores, just as Uncle Sam's domestic boom starts to peter out. In the case of Brazil, the size of the country and number of its population, as well as the dimension of the economy, together with international insertion, Brazil achieved it as a G20 member, a BRICS member, one colleague retired, Ambassador of India, as well as the 10 times it was elected a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, provide the country with adequate credentials to contribute considerably towards a more even and balanced world, where through better understanding economic growth can be more widespread and indeed reach the most in need. I think it's only fair that we remind that Brazil is the 4th largest democracy in the world. All in all, therefore, in such quite challenging times, it is fair to say that developing countries are doing what they can in such trying times to move ahead and to assist in shaping world affairs now and for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Papa. I have a prerogative of 5 minutes, Papa, before we go to the question and answer. I recall a picture issued by His Excellency Chang Beom that our former Vice President Muhammad Hatta mentioned in the year 1953 that Indonesia has a duty to strengthen peace. And this is a very opportune time. This is the 3rd week of October, the UN Day. Please allow me to ask one simple question, because from the 1st of January 2019, Indonesia will become the next non-permanent member of the UN. In this case, what can the 5 countries help Indonesia? What can you expect from Indonesia? Or could this become a very important opportunity for Indonesia to help strengthen the UN? For this session, please allow me to ask the Ambassador of President to begin. Please, Papa.
Did I get it right what we should expect from Indonesia?
Yes, Papa.
Well, we have a very strong relationship bilaterally. In fact, it's completing 65 years this year. The relationship is in top shape. I think it's a matter of course, doing more. Right now, Brazil is 8th largest economy in the world. Indonesia is the 16th, but as forecast in 2050, Indonesia should be number 4, Brazil probably number 5. We share a lot of commonalities like enormous populations, lacking of infrastructure, which we should tackle eventually together, very similar climates, and very similar problems in front of the international community that very probably will have to sit and conceive common ground to see how we should face it. I would number a few. Climate change, deforestation, food security. How would you provide for the betterment of health of future generations? All those issues are issues that not only are very dear to us, but which we think we can share with Indonesia, because in terms of latitude, Indonesia is what is the north and the northeast of my country. So the vegetation is the same, the fruits are the same, so it's not very difficult to move ahead. It's a lot, there's a lot to do, a long road ahead, but it's very easy to take the first steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Reminds me of the Beatles song, It's a Long and Winding Road, sir. It's a long and winding road. Then may I ask His Excellency Stephen Smith, Indonesia will become the next member of the UN Security Council, the permanent member. What kind of a coalition do you think Indonesia could do with Australia?
Firstly, Australia is very pleased that Indonesia will be a temporary member of the Security Council of the United Nations over the next 3-year period. We welcome that very much. Australia was a temporary member of the Security Council from 2013 to 2016. My first offer is an offer of assistance. Australia's ambassador to Indonesia, Gary Quinlan, who's in the front row here, was Australia's ambassador to the United Nations during the period we were a member of the Security Council. If you need any advice or assistance about what to expect, then he's definitely your man. He can do both the Australian ambassador to Indonesia job and your special counsel advisor at the same time. The first serious point is we found that for all of us, we should all aspire from time to time to accept the obligation of being on the Security Council. That's the sort of United Nations role that we should play, and we've all done that. Secondly, we found that we could make a contribution. Countries from our part of the world would make representations to us about particular matters before the Security Council, and of course we treat them with the respect that they're deserving as partners in the region. We also found unexpectedly that a couple of issues arose which were of particular direct national interest to us, in particular when a Malaysian Airlines plane was shot down by military activity over the Ukraine, and that became a Security Council issue. It was fortuitous that we were on the Security Council at the same time. But there are occasions where individual nations who are friends look out for a partner or an ally or a friend on the Security Council to take forward representation. But our aspiration for Indonesia would be for Indonesia to conduct itself as it always has, as a responsible international citizen, as a country wanting to see matters resolved in a peaceful and consensus way.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Now allow me to ask His Excellency Chang Beom, what kind of coalition could we expect from Korea? Hassan, terakhir ya Pak.
Thank you, Teuku. Well, I once again join other speakers to congratulate Indonesia upon taking up the seat at the United Nations Security Council from next year. But one thing that I just want to remind you is that the United Nations Security Council is not a panacea. It's not a body to solve all the problems at once. It's a body to tackle challenges, but sometimes we are frustrated with some of the lack of outcomes and lack of consensus and lack of actions. But I think that Indonesia can make some differences, because Indonesia is the largest Muslim majority country, which is very unique characteristic, and Indonesia is one and only country to represent ASEAN within the United Nations Security Council from next year. And Indonesia is one of the largest liberal democracies in the whole world. Like, we all share the common values. So those are the kind of the traits or the positive characteristics that Indonesia can make advantage of. And one thing I just want to add is that Indonesia just stay on course. So you don't have to just create a new agenda and new principles, because Indonesia has been well renowned and quite well respected by the international community for its respect of human rights, democracy, the rule of law, and it's conducting quite mature democracy. So there is a straight that you could take advantage of when you visit it at the UN Security Council.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, please allow me to pass the advice and comments from His Excellency Shri Kumar. Please go on.
In most of the multilateral events, India and Indonesia are neighbors. Our diplomats sit next to each other, so we can always kind of have this tradition of close consultation. And I have no doubt that Indonesia's presence on Security Council would give more opportunities for us to strengthen this close consultation between India and Indonesia. This morning we saw in Foreign Minister Ratno's presentation that how Indonesia is enhancing its contribution to peacekeeping operations. So a lot of new elements on Indonesian soldiers' head. Also, when there is greater strife, I see the time is up, so I must. So when there is a greater strife, the strength that Indonesia has, innate strength of being, as Ambassador Kim mentioned, that it's a very diverse country, and in such a society you have a very strong tradition of consultation, mediation. I think that can become a very powerful role that Indonesia can play, and that is also brings me, is a very powerful role that the middle powers tend to play. That is the strength. So I think we could see Indonesia playing that role on a much bigger scale, being a member of the
Thank you very much, Bapak. Now to Pak Hassan, 1 minute, Pak Hassan. We have witnessed a very strong recognition and also appreciation and belief, Bapak. Do you sense the same motion, Bapak?
Well, Indonesia will be showing its position as a non-permanent member of the Security Council. There are 10 non-permanent members and 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. And we will be operating within the existing system, including existing constraints. So, be realistic. To me, the strong points of Indonesia, especially Indonesia in this era of reform or reformasi, comparisons with Indonesia during or throughout military unit government. I think there's greater acceptance of Indonesia, both in the development and certainly also in developing countries. Number two, Indonesia can play its role as a force of dialogue and voice of reasons. I would give you an example. Around 2007, and the Iranian nuclear issue, all P5, permanent 5 members have agreed to form a draft resolution, meaning in the UN jargon, it's called blue draft. In the history of the UN Security Council, a blue draft would automatically be adopted as resolutions. But that's the voice of reason Indonesia plays. I met with the Iranian foreign minister and asking Iran to be more flexible. Iran has been, the Security Council have adopted number of anti-nuclear issue. Well, on the other hand, the P5 must realize that so many resolutions were adopted, their support, but until that time there was no follow-up. So I persuaded the Iranian foreign minister to be more flexible. At the same time, in my communication with State Secretary Correa, I said, why you need to adopt another resolution? There are a number of previous resolutions that have not been implemented. So in the end, the blue draft was cancelled. So that's what I mean by voice of reason and force of dialogue. We can communicate with both sides of the equations and prevent something worse to happen. And I think this will get that context that Indonesia may continue to play its role, but must realize that as non-permanent members, we may be preoccupied with the question of independence of Palestine. But if we put on the Palestinians from the agenda, we all fight and we know. So that's what I mean by reality. But at the same time, we can play a role. My words as force of dialogue and vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there are optimism, there are need for dialogue, and there are need to be consistent also to play their role as middle powers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 10 minutes. May I invite one questioner, Mr. Irman Lanti, please stand up. You are representing.
Good afternoon, Excellencies. My name is Irman Lanti. I'm affiliated with UNDP as well as teaching at several universities. Allow me to be controversial, maybe, Reza, in actually judging the Indonesians' non-permanent, the upcoming non-permanent membership of the UN Security Council. As Hassan mentioned correctly, that the UN Security Council, remains the UN Security Council that we know for decades. A lot of things are not solved in the UN Security Council and everything like that. And in fact, probably this is becoming almost like a once-in-a-decade ritual for Indonesia. So then, we have to become non-permanent member of the UN Security Council once every decade. So I don't know, whether this will lead us to anywhere. But anyway, I think if we go back to the issue of the emerging and middle powers, which I respectfully probably would exclude India from this, Excellency, because India is not a middle power. India will become a great power very, very soon. But the question, of course, is that in the face of the declining of the United States and now rising up again and everything, the rise of China, the rise of India, of course, what would be the platform that these emerging and middle powers are going to use, to actually push this? The Chinese have, of course, the Belt and Road, have the AIIB. India is mostly almost like the IORA platform, and I know that India is actually preparing for some other platforms. We're talking about a number of countries here. Brazil, South Africa, Australia. There's, of course, that platform now which is available that nobody ever heard of probably in this room, which is called MIPTA. Indonesia, Korea, Turkey, and Australia. So, it's like, it is probably the luxury that we don't have as middle powers, as the Chinese, the Indians, the Americans have, which is basically running only one capital. We are actually running several capitals. So then, what would be the prospect for an emerging and middle powers trying to fill in the vacuum left by the American decline and the problem with the rise of China and everything? So how would that actually transpire? How would that happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, let me to introduce myself. My name is Jonathan. I am a student from International Relations in the University of Indonesia. I would like to address a question directly to the Ambassador of Brazil. Boa tarde, Ambassador Senor Rubem Correa. I would like to ask a question. Both Brazil and Indonesia are two middle powers, and both are facing environmental problems. How can middle powers like Indonesia or Brazil use the international platforms such as the United Nations to address their environmental problems such as the destruction of rainforests as well as the depletion of ozone layer, especially to the developed industrial nations? Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to ask a quick question. I don't know how relevant it would be, but I would just want to reverberate the spirit that used to be the South cooperation spirit. That I recognize that the emerging and middle powers doesn't, in general, represent the South cooperation. But reverberating the spirit of that, I think what I personally expect from the emerging and middle powers is putting into the table that the interest that used to not be on the table, the interest from the so-called least or less developed countries that is not under the spotlight, but from the emerging and middle powers, we expect them to bring into the tables because the greater power, the greater responsibility. So in terms of addressing inequality within and between countries, that is still a constraint in today's society. What can we expect from the role of the emerging and middle powers? Because from the previous session, I heard a kind of thought-provoking idea or argument, at least from a panelist from NTU, that he said that. He argued that globalization itself, the idea of globalization itself, is not about the distribution. It's about the creation of wealth. The distribution is a problem of policy. So what do you think about that?
Thank you very much. So we have
Question of
yes.
the South cooperation or the globalization. What we are seeing that some of the assumptions like globalization, that globalization has certainly created more global value. Today, in terms of affordability of items, it is much higher because the comparative prices of goods have gone down drastically. But certainly the question is about how the wealth created by globalization has been distributed, because there have been big winners and there have been small winners, and that is what is we see today, that countries and other stakeholders are questioning whether the globalization has resulted in fair distribution of the wealth. And that is what part of this questioning of what we say trade war or things is basically that. Now, generally, you find that when there are global rules, and these global rules happen to be voluntary, not everyone adheres to the global rules equally. And that is where the voluntary adherence to global rules create a little bit of problems. And it's not only in global, but within countries also, within societies also that happens. So that's something is in a way unavoidable. That's why you come back to this situation and keep correcting it till you kind of keep improving it.
Thank you, Bob. Now, please allow me to invite His Excellency Kim Chang. May we have your opinion, sir?
Let me touch upon the first question that is related with the possibility of platforms that could be used by so-called middle powers, emerging powers, or what kind of modality that should be. And I think there is a growing temptation on the part of the nation states to resort to some kind of regional mechanisms to resolve outstanding issues, but at the same time to come up with more concerted powers in order to tackle challenges coming abroad. And one principle that I think that Indonesia has been sticking to is openness, inclusiveness. I think that principle that has been well resonant in other parts of the world as well. Korea is standing by Indonesia in sharing that common principles, whether it's MICTA, whether it's G20 or whatever kind of the groupings of the countries. We've been upholding kind of principles of openness and inclusiveness. And as far as the Indonesia is concerned, well, I could suggest to Indonesian friends that Indonesia has been a leading member state of ASEAN, and we do often hear about the kind of the weakening phases of ASEAN centrality in some of the issues. So I think that Indonesia should speak up and stand up and lead the whole voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. If I may quote your last statement, Indonesia must be more proactive, something like that. Hassan, what do you think, Hassan?
Emerging countries must use democracy, possibility democracy, respect human rights, rule of law, good and clean governance, as well as peaceful conflict resolutions. And this is important as liberal democracy in the world, in developed countries, is declining in view of the rising nationalisms as well as populism. So we can feel it. And as all of us, I would say, all emerging countries from the south, with the exceptions of Saudi Arabia, we all work closely and use this as a platform. Number two, that in the declining process of multilateralism, when Trump said America first, and for that matter, his administration has forced to dismantle a number of national or multilateral institutions. I think we should set up, promote instead multilateralism and regionalism, free and fair trade, and among others. So, but what the role of the emerging countries with regard to the fellow South, in particular the LDCs, I think together we should also spend more. We should not forget that yes, we are growing, reaching higher stage of our economic development, that we should not forget as to help these developed countries. I visited 11 countries early this year of Africa, and most of them are least developed countries. I must say that Indonesia must invest more, because our international cooperation expenditure as of now is very low. While many least developing countries were expecting to see Indonesia being fortunate to be emerging economies to help them more. The assistance might not be expensive. For example, I said we have trained our engineers, agricultural engineers, and best farmers from Java to Tanzania to share with them our experience in rice planting, and helps the rice productions multiple 7 times. But what's important is here the spirit, the ideology, to share what we have. That's not necessarily expensive, but we must remember that as we used to be helped by others, I think it's time for us to pay back, particularly to help the least developed countries to grow.
Thank you very much, Pak Hassan. Now, may we hear the opinion of His Excellency Stephen Smith. Please, Bapak.
Just to respond to the first question, which is what platforms or process can emerging or middle powers find to put their view out there on global issues. Firstly, I agree with your remark, which I sort of intimated myself. India will be a great power, so India will escape from our clutches, and that's in that respect in due course. But there's no one silver bullet a nation state has to address these days. Is not a problem that nation state can solve by itself. It's got to work in concert with others. It might be dangerous climate change, it might be international economic issues, global financial or regional financial crises. So generally when you're confronted with something these days, you've got to find a regional institution or an international institution to try and progress a like-minded solution. This doesn't help our Brazilian problem, but in terms of a platform or a process, there's a perfect one for countries in our region, the Indo-Pacific. It's called the East Asia Summit, so the ASEAN plus 8. So Australia worked very hard to persuade the United States that it should join the East Asia Summit, and Indonesia and other ASEAN members worked very hard to add to that and to make sure that the United States wasn't members of the EAS member together with Russia. So when you look at the East Asia Summit, the President's meeting hosted by the ASEAN host every year, Presidents and Prime Ministers, the Foreign Ministers meeting every year, Defence Ministers meeting in the ASEAN Defence Ministers +2 format, meeting every second year, but that will inevitably be every year in the not too distant future. All of the key countries in our part of the world can have a conversation with powers great and small about prosperity issues, about economic prosperity issues, but also about peace and security issues. So there's a perfect format for us, and some of us had that in mind when we urged in a different context. The G20 works for us as it does for Brazil. So there's no one silver bullet, but there's any number of regional, institutional, or international institutional forums and formats where people in nation states can progress and attempt a solution to a difficult issue. The United Nations is another forum, but Hassan has made the point that the UN has its constraints, and the P5 with its veto power reflects the world's renewal after the end of World War II. It doesn't reflect the modern era, and that's proposed its own difficulties and its own constraints. I always had this view as Foreign Minister that you can do a lot of good just by turning up, because you can mount an argument, you can try and persuade, you can try and influence. So those habits of interaction, of discourse, of dialogue is much better than doing nothing. You know, we spend the rest of our days trying to find the one perfect forum. You won't, because there's no such thing.
Yes, may we hear the opinion of His Excellency Rubem Antonio Correa Barbosa. Please, Bapak.
Thank you. I didn't understand the full contents of the question, so if you could put it up again or you summarize. I must have tried.
Yes. Oh, the second one. Where's the second one? You are supporting the current policies of environment of the UN. Is that correct? Where's the second one? Yes. Is that correct? Do you expect further commitments from Brazil? Okay. He appreciates the ongoing development in the UN system in dealing with environment, sir. Do you see further policies to be made by Brazil in this regard?
Well, muito obrigado. I'll try to reply to the best of my knowledge. And again, I think I would forward my congratulations for the coming Indonesia term in the United Nations. in the Security Council. Brazil and Indonesia have been working together in a number of issues along the years in the United Nations. I would particularly highlight peacekeeping forces and environmental issues. Forests come very much into the market and into the picture, and climate change too. I normally say that we are doomed to work together in those subjects because together with the Democratic Republic of Congo, we three share the largest extensions of tropical forest in the world. So we are on one side very much responsible for what we do, and in front of the rest of the world, we are very much asked for commitments towards a better behavior in this area in favor of the planet. Again, I think maybe the time has not yet fully come for us to sit and talk more and take more action around these issues. But in these 2.5 years that I've been in Indonesia, I think those are issues that are unavoidable in the relationship between our two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Do we how much time do we have left?
We have 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, okay. Before we come to the second session, allow me to say in one short sentence, there is a high degree of optimism that the emerging and middle powers, they have a great role to play in international relations. For the second session, from Tempo magazine, okay, and the second one, okay, please go.
Thank you very much. My name is Pradeep from Indonesia. All of you in front representing member of G20 and also democratic countries. Not all countries in the world are democratic. But there is a concept that saying there would be no war between two democracies. Do you believe in that concept? Yeah, and if it is so, what is the role of middle countries like yours to ensure democracy and peace in the world? Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. There is no second question? Okay, yes, please. Please straightforward, Bapak.
From Waseda University. My question directed to the Ambassador of the Republic of Korea. We learned a lot from Indonesia and also ASEAN, so I'm trying to look on what we can learn from South Korea. As we know that Indonesia and Korea got independent just different 2 days, but almost 3 decades or more, our economic growth is different. So looking on the emerging power, I think security and economy is more important factors. Then my question is, looking back on Korea in 1961 until 1979, the Park Chung-hee promoted a lot of economic foundation for Korea, and right now Korea can develop, and the world recognizes it. Then the question is, could Korea, or how can Korea push the Asia countries or around the world become emerging countries, maybe from Saimao-Undong or community social development? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the questions. I think for the first question, the correlation between democracy or the current countries and peace, I think it may take one full day to discuss. So I will just skip the question and then I will just report to the second question that is related with what made Korea develop a bit faster. In comparison with Indonesia, Korea is a smaller country, smaller to manage, smaller to perhaps excel in a short period of time. But one thing that I just want to share with you is that human resources development has been one of the key success secret to the that success that we have obtained within the last several decades. And I think Indonesia is on the right path while developing quite dramatically the infrastructures all over Indonesia, at the same time to put greater emphasis on human brain development. I think that's the right direction. And as well as this whole community development is kind of the core agenda, the core agenda of the leadership here in Indonesia. So I think this, that message should be well received by the people here, and I think that Indonesia should stay on the course. Thank you.
I will certainly second what Ambassador Kim has said, that your question is quite deep in terms of philosophical basis, whether democracy is a sure or certain way to prevent war. Hopefully, I think we would not see any open all-out war, but there are different stages of a conflict, in a sense. It need not be all-out conflict, and at the end of the day, the more interconnected countries become, the chances of larger conflict diminish. I think that's generally is seen, and so the a certain way is that more globalized, more connected, more such groupings that we are seeing, MICTA, ASEAN, BRICS, G20. I think there could be differences of opinion, there could be different arguments, but not necessarily each difference of argument would lead to a bigger strife. I think, and the role of middle powers, particularly diverse countries like Indonesia, who have internalized that there are different levels of truth and there are different truths, and have great ability to synthesize and reconcile different versions of truth, I think would continue to play a very important religion.
Thank you very much, sir. May I invite Bapak Hassan Wirajuda to answer
to me, democracy is an important component of peace and security. Unfortunately, in the world, we have huge deficits of democracy. Out of 193 members of the United Nations, only 182 which organize regular elections. And out of 182, I would say about 120 which are democratic. In other words, organizing regular elections without sufficiently guaranteeing respect of all the freedoms of association, of assembly, of to be nominated, free media, etc. It remains regular, but not democratic. North Korea regularly organized elections, very peaceful, very orderly, but no one can say North Korea is a democratic country. So the biggest deficit is in the Asia-Pacific region, whereby out of 56 countries, only 28% which are free, which are democratic. 32% have democracy, the rest not democracy at all. That's why the idea of the establishment of Bali Democracy Forum, which I initiated in 2008, basically to address the huge deficit that we have in our region. Of course, initially, ASEAN among 10, you can count how many countries of 10 ASEAN members which are democratic. In response to the idea of then Prime Minister Barbosa against the backdrop of financial crisis, monetary crisis, that he came up with the idea of ASEAN Economic Community. To me, it is good provided it must be balanced. That's why Indonesia in 2002 introduced the political and security community, a concept in which promotion of democracy, human rights, rule of law, good and clean governance are the core values. But still, we have to work hard because, as of now, I don't believe that by 2030, 12 years from now, all ASEAN will be democratic. But at least we have established in the founding documents of, rather, in the ASEAN Charter, that we are striving to make ASEAN democratic. This is an issue while at the same time we are witnessing that democracy is declining, particularly in the established democracy in the West. So, but that's why to me, here the emerging democracy can fill the gap.
Thank you, Pak Hassan. Now may we hear the opinion of His Excellency Stephen Smith from Australia.
Well, I agree with Hassan about more nation states. Whilst I agree with that, in theory, the notion that one democracy will not commence a conflict with another democracy is fine in theory, but there's never been a automatic guarantee that a democracy will not start a conflict, nor is it necessarily logically followed that a non-democratic country will engage in unprovoked attack on another country. So this is not a pure science. Despite our focus on conflict and potential for conflict, it is, as a matter of fact, we're living through a period of world history where conflict is at its least prevalent period, and that's post-World War II and unambiguously a good thing, and one may continue with further improvements. In terms of middle powers or emerging powers, this is an ongoing commitment to ensure that if there is conflict, it might be a territorial dispute, a maritime dispute, that we seek to resolve these issues with an underpinning of adherence to international law and to resolving disputes between nation states in a peaceful way and using every resource we can to assist that process.
Thank you very much. I think, yes, there is a close relation between the democracies and war no more. It works like a strong deterrent against the war when two democracies have to deal with each other. And maybe that's why we try to make the world a more democratic one. I would like to offer a concrete situation that happened in my country to try to illustrate what I'm trying to say. In 2007, we did discover a huge oil reserve offshore in Brazil called the pre-salt, 6 kilometers deep, and we needed a lot of money to exploit that. The Chinese Development Bank came straight away with $100 billion in investment to Petrobras, which was to be paid later in oil at current oil prices once the exploitation was developed. There was no technology for that. 2 weeks later, the Exim Bank from the United States came and then matched the offer on the same status to guarantee some oil to the United States on the same conditions. And I was working in our Ministry of Mines and Energy at that time, and I took notes on the conversations, and there was some fun made of the Americans. Well, you arrived a bit too late, the Chinese were here 2 weeks ago. And the Americans said, look, we still insist on the bid, because if this goes on, it will be one of the first, not the only, but one of the first opportunities. I think that states the fact that the strengths of the democracy can be a strong underpin inclusively for good business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy is very important in producing global peace. And also we have witnessed that the 5 speakers have produced an aura of cooperation. They support each other. It represents a belief that emerging and middle powers should work together more and more. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very big applause to our 5 excellent speakers.